You've been told that if you work hard, save money, and stay disciplined, you'll eventually be rich. That's the dream sold to billions of people. But what if that dream was manufactured? What if the system you trust was never designed to make you rich, only to keep you hopeful enough to keep working? Because 95% of people will never get rich. And it's not by accident, it's by design. Let's start with the foundation. The modern economy isn't built on wealth creation, it's built on debt creation. Governments need debt, corporations need consumption, media needs attention, and all three depend on one thing: a population that believes the next promotion, the next gadget, the next election will finally make life better. The system doesn't want you poor, it wants you productive and predictable, rich enough to consume, broke enough to obey. The blueprint was written after World War II. Mass production needed mass consumers, so education systems were redesigned to produce workers. Not thinkers, not investors, not owners. You were trained to memorize, not to question, to specialize, not to diversify, to compete, not to collaborate. And then you were handed your reward: a salary, a fixed number that capped your imagination. Here's the first secret: the 9-to-5 model isn't an accident of history, it's economic architecture. It keeps cash flowing upward through taxes, loans, and consumption. You work, you pay taxes first, you buy things made by corporations owned by the top 5%. You borrow money from banks owned by the same group, and then you repeat. It's a closed loop disguised as freedom. But how do you keep billions of people inside the loop without force? You use media. Media is the ministry of modern economics. Its job isn't to inform you, it's to emotionally calibrate you. It feeds you panic when they need compliance, hope when they need liquidity, and distraction when they need silence. They show you lifestyles you'll chase but never catch, so you keep buying symbols of success instead of building it. That's not entertainment, that's behavioral engineering. If you're starting to sense how deep this goes, take a moment right now. Subscribe to Rich Logic and like this video. Because understanding this isn't conspiracy, it's clarity. And clarity is the first act of rebellion. Let's go deeper. The government's favorite product isn't policy, it's confidence. Every election, every speech, every statistic is designed to preserve faith in the system because faith keeps you spending. Inflation, rebranded as growth; money printing, framed as stimulus; tax cuts for the elite, sold as job creation. Meanwhile, the cost of living rises faster than wages, and people blame themselves for falling behind, never realizing the treadmill was programmed to speed up. You're told to save money, but saving guarantees poverty because the currency you save is engineered to lose value. Governments must create inflation to survive, because debt is only manageable when the money it's owed in keeps shrinking in real terms. That means your savings are the fuel that quietly pays for state mistakes. You're the counterweight to their overspending. So while you store your labor in paper, they dilute its worth through printing. It's legalized theft disguised as monetary policy, but people don't riot because the same system offers them dopamine instead of dividends. Social media gives you micro rewards for opinions. Streaming gives you escape. Credit gives you fake abundance. You don't feel poor because your phone is rich. And that's how the cycle sustains itself. Emotional satisfaction replaces financial independence. Here's the second secret: the economy no longer runs on production, it runs on perception. Stock markets rise on expectation, not profit. Currencies hold value through belief, not backing. Media narratives shape consumption more than product quality. Reality is negotiable, belief is everything. The rich learned this first. That's why they own attention assets, platforms, algorithms, advertising networks. Because whoever controls attention controls demand. The rest of the population fights over supply. Every generation, the system updates its software. It used religion, then patriotism. Now it uses identity and outrage to keep people divided and distracted. Because united citizens question power, divided citizens question each other. While you argue online, they pass laws in silence. While you cancel strangers, they cancel your purchasing power. It's not personal, it's strategic. If this sounds dark, stay with me, because understanding it gives you leverage. The rich can't be controlled the same way because they've exited the loop. They own assets that rise with inflation. They use debt as leverage instead of liability. They fund both sides of political debates. They don't fight the system, they finance it. That's the third secret. Wealth is permissionless power. Once you own assets that work while you sleep, you can't be threatened by scarcity anymore. That's why the system discourages ownership and promotes subscription. Rent your house, lease your car, stream your entertainment, depend on the cloud. Because dependency is modern feudalism, and the digital landlords are the new aristocracy. If this is making sense, pause for a second and follow Rich Logic, because each episode pulls back another layer of how the machine really works and how to step outside it. Let's expose the psychological engineering that keeps 95% compliant. Fear of loss, shame of failure, addiction to approval. Fear keeps you from investing. Shame keeps you from trying again. Approval keeps you conforming. It's the perfect triad. Media amplifies fear, culture amplifies shame, social networks amplify comparison. And the result? A society of capable people who hesitate. The economy doesn't need your success, it needs your participation. Governments measure stability not by wealth creation, but by predictable behavior. They want citizens who borrow, spend, and obey, because chaos threatens credit markets, and credit markets fund campaigns. So, incentives are built backwards. Policies reward consumption, punish saving, and make speculation irresistible. It's why housing bubbles are tolerated, why student debt explodes, why consumer credit expands even when wages stagnate. Because your debt is their asset, your stability is their risk. Let's talk about media economics. Every headline is an economic product. Bad news sells ads, good news sells optimism. Either way, someone profits. When they need markets high, they sell confidence. When they need volatility, they sell fear. It's not journalism, it's inventory control. And the public, addicted to certainty, buys both. The rich, meanwhile, use headlines as signals. They read news like meteorologists read clouds. Not for truth, but for wind direction. They know that by the time you feel panic, they've already positioned for your reaction. Here's something new. In the digital age, inequality isn't just financial, it's informational. The top 5% don't just have more money, they have better data. They pay for faster feeds, deeper research, predictive analytics. They see the storm before the forecast reaches you. So by the time retail investors react, the elite have already sold the umbrella factory. That's why getting rich today isn't about working harder, it's about seeing earlier. But can you escape the design? Yes, if you understand the rules well enough to play differently. Rule 1. Convert earned income into asset income as fast as possible. Money that relies on your time is rented wealth. Rule 2. Learn economic language. You can't win a game you don't speak. Understand inflation, liquidity, fiscal policy, because ignorance is taxable. Rule 3. Manage attention like money. Every hour of distraction is an hour of compounding you never get back. Rule 4. Build community outside algorithms. The system isolates you because isolated people don't organize. Connection is currency. If you're still here, you already think differently. So take a second and subscribe to Rich Logic and like this video, because information without repetition fades, but when you hear these truths often enough, you start seeing the code beneath the chaos. Let's finish with the bigger picture. The system isn't evil, it's efficient. It rewards obedience because obedience keeps the machine running. But every machine has a flaw. It can't predict consciousness. The moment enough people stop reacting emotionally and start observing economically, the design begins to crack. That's why independent thinking is the ultimate act of rebellion, because when you think for yourself, you stop feeding the loop, you stop being a consumer of narratives and start becoming a curator of reality. So why will 95% of people never get rich? Because they're too busy feeling to start studying, too busy consuming comfort to create leverage, too loyal to certainty to explore chaos. The system doesn't even need to stop them. It just needs to keep them busy, busy earning, busy watching, busy scrolling. Because the longer you stay distracted, the less time you have to notice that freedom was available all along. The remaining 5%, they aren't superhuman. They simply chose to see the rules instead of playing blindfolded. They learned that freedom isn't granted, it's understood. They studied the machine until they could operate outside it. That's what we do here at Rich Logic. We don't chase trends, we study systems. Because when you understand the architecture, you can finally redesign your own life. So, if this episode opened your eyes, like the video, subscribe to Rich Logic, and share it with someone who's ready to wake up. Because the first step to becoming rich is realizing the system doesn't want you to. And the second is deciding you'll do it anyway.